Isabel Whitmore had grown used to the pattern. Every February, her husband Edward would vanish for an entire month. His explanations were always the same: a demanding work project, an urgent assignment that required travel to Liverpool. Isabel accepted this, though a quiet worry lingered in her mind. Life in Bath was peaceful enough, with its historic streets and quiet mornings. Yet, when Edward left, the house felt cold and empty. Isabel spent those weeks going about her daily routines, trying not to dwell on the absence. Friends asked about Edward's trips, but she gave only polite, vague answers. This year, however, something was different. Isabel found herself restless, her curiosity gnawing at her more than ever. She began to wonder what Edward was really doing during those long absences. One rainy afternoon, while cleaning the attic, Isabel stumbled upon an old wooden chest tucked behind dusty boxes. Her heart quickened when she noticed a small, leather-bound album inside. It was hidden well, as if meant never to be found. With trembling hands, she opened it. The photographs inside told a story she was not prepared to hear. The photographs in the album were unlike anything Isabel expected. At first, there were pictures of Edward with places she recognized from his work trips, the familiar streets of Liverpool, cafes, and parks. But soon the images changed. There were photographs of Edward smiling beside a woman Isabel had never seen before. The woman looked comfortable with Edward, standing close with arms linked, sharing laughter as if they were a family. Then came the pictures of two children, a boy and a girl, both around the ages of 5 and 7, who appeared in almost every photo. They played in gardens, celebrated birthdays, and even posed for family portraits. Isabel's hands trembled as she turned each page. How had she never noticed this woman or these children? Where were they hiding such a life from her? Was it possible Edward had another family living parallel to theirs? She sat down heavily, the weight of betrayal sinking in. The calm life she had built felt suddenly fragile and distant, like a house of cards ready to collapse. The man she thought she knew was a stranger living a secret double life. Isabel tried to steady her breathing, her mind racing with questions. Had Edward ever loved her? Had the years of trust been a lie? She stared at the photos again, searching for any hint or explanation. That evening, when Edward returned from his trip, Isabel confronted him. Her voice was steady but cold. She showed him the album and demanded the truth. Edward's face turned pale. For a moment, he was silent. Then, with a heavy sigh, he admitted everything. He confessed to having another family in Liverpool, another wife and their children. The work trips, he said, were a cover for the time he spent with them. The room felt like it was closing in on Isabel. The man she had shared her life with was living a life that did not include her. Her world shattered with each word. Isabel sat in stunned silence, the album still open on her lap. Edward's confession echoed in her mind like a distant thunderstorm, growing louder and more threatening with each passing second. She had shared 15 years of marriage with this man. 15 years of birthdays, holidays, arguments, and quiet moments over tea. And all along, he had been living a secret life, a parallel existence she never even guessed. Edward tried to explain. He spoke of loneliness, of feeling trapped in a life he didn't fully want. He claimed his other family brought him joy and a sense of freedom he no longer found with Isabel. Yet, his words felt hollow, meaningless against the flood of pain they unleashed. Isabel looked at Edward, searching for the man she once loved. But all she saw was a stranger cloaked in deceit. How could someone she trusted so deeply hide such a truth? How could he live two lives without a single hint, a single whisper? Her heart ached, torn between anger and sorrow. She had questions she feared to ask, questions she needed answers for. Did he ever truly love her? Was she merely a convenience, a facade to hide behind? What had their life meant to him? The nights that followed were heavy with silence. Edward tried to reach out, but Isabel pulled away, needing time and space to breathe. She wandered through their home, the walls suddenly feeling unfamiliar, suffocating. Every room held memories now tainted with betrayal. One day, unable to bear the uncertainty, Isabel took a train to Liverpool. She needed to see the other life Edward had spoken of, to understand the truth beyond the photographs. She walked the streets, found the neighborhood, and even glimpsed the house where Edward's secret family lived. Seeing the children play in the garden, hearing their laughter, it was as if a dagger pierced her heart. These were the moments Edward chose over her, over their life together. The depth of his deception was more than Isabel could bear. Yet beneath the pain, a spark of determination ignited within her. She would not let this betrayal define her. She would uncover every secret, every lie, and rebuild a life she could truly own. Days passed like heavy fog hanging over Isabel's heart. The revelation of Edward's double life gnawed at every moment. Bath's familiar streets, once comforting, now felt like corridors of secrets she never knew existed. Each glance at Edward was a reminder of the lie, each smile forced and hollow. The neighbors, friends, and even family began to notice the change in her. Isabel, who once was warm and open, now withdrew into herself, a shadow of the woman she used to be. Her nights were restless, haunted by thoughts of Edward's betrayal and the life he led without her. Edward attempted to patch things up, promising to end the deception and be honest moving forward. Yet Isabel's trust was broken, shattered beyond repair. She wanted answers, but the truth came with pain too sharp to bear. Isabel's mind raced with plans and possibilities. Could their marriage survive this? Was forgiveness possible? Or was this the moment to finally reclaim her life and dignity? She found solace in quiet walks by the River Avon, the water's steady flow a contrast to the chaos within. It was during these solitary moments that clarity began to dawn. Isabel realized she owed herself more than just loyalty to a man who had betrayed her. She began researching legal advice, quietly contacting a solicitor in Bath. She needed to understand her rights, the possibilities of separation or divorce. The thought of confronting Edward again filled her with dread, but also a growing sense of empowerment. At the same time, Isabel reached out to her closest friend, Sarah, who listened without judgment. Sarah reminded her that she was not alone and that strength could be found even in the darkest times. Isabel knew the road ahead would be difficult and uncertain. But within her, a new resolve was forming, one that would lead her out of the shadows and back into the light of her own life. Isabel's visit to Liverpool had stirred more questions than answers. The quiet neighborhood she had wandered felt foreign and yet painfully familiar. She had seen Edward's secret family from a distance, but the reality of their life there was stark and raw. Determined to understand, Isabel began piecing together the fragments she had uncovered. She visited local cafes, spoke cautiously with neighbors, and tried to trace the days Edward spent away from Bath. Every conversation deepened her sense of betrayal but also fueled her resolve. One rainy afternoon, Isabel found herself in a small bookshop tucked away in a quiet street near Edward's second home. The owner, an elderly man with kind eyes, noticed her interest in local stories and offered gentle conversation. Without revealing too much, Isabel asked about the community and families around the area. The man mentioned a family that recently moved in, a man who often traveled for work, and 2 children who were known to the neighborhood. Isabel's heart pounded. This was the family she had glimpsed in the photographs. That evening, Isabel returned to Bath with a heavy heart but a clearer mind. She realized Edward's double life was not just a secret affair but a full existence, built over years with love, laughter, and memories she had no part in. The contrast was unbearable. In Bath, she lived with loneliness and suspicion. In Liverpool, Edward was surrounded by a family who loved him openly. Isabel knew the coming days would require decisions, painful and irreversible. But she also recognized the strength growing within her, the strength to face the truth no matter how shattering. The days that followed Isabel's return from Liverpool were heavy with silence and restless thoughts. Bath's quiet charm seemed to mock her turmoil. its cobblestone streets and quaint cafes a stark contrast to the storm raging within her. Each morning, she awoke with a weight on her chest, the knowledge of Edward's secret life pressing down relentlessly. Isabel's mind was a whirlwind of memories and questions. She recalled their early days, the laughter that once filled their home, the promises whispered under starry skies. Had those moments been real or just carefully crafted lies? She struggled to reconcile the man she loved with the man who had betrayed her so profoundly. Despite the ache, a spark of defiance grew stronger with each passing day. Isabel refused to be a victim trapped in a web of deceit. She was determined to reclaim control over her life, to find a path forward that honored her dignity and strength. Legal consultations brought clarity but also daunting realities. Edward's wealth and the complexity of their shared assets meant that any separation would be far from simple. Isabel realized she needed to be strategic, to gather evidence and support before making any moves. At home, the atmosphere grew colder. Edward sensed the shift, his attempts at reconciliation becoming more desperate yet less convincing. Isabel's distance was a shield, protecting her from the emotional wounds that still bled beneath the surface. One evening, as rain tapped softly against the window panes, Isabel sat by the fire with a journal in her lap. She began writing, pouring out the tangled emotions that had no voice. The pages filled with sorrow, anger, but also a quiet determination to rise again. She reached out to old friends, mended relationships frayed by years of silence, and found new strength in their support. Isabel realized she was not alone, that her story was one of many but uniquely hers to navigate. The crossroads loomed ahead. Stay and fight for a marriage built on fractured trust, or step into the unknown to rebuild a life on her own terms. The choice was hers, heavy but empowering. The days after their conversation were filled with fragile hope and lingering doubts. Isabella tried to rebuild the fragile trust that years of silence had worn away. She accompanied James as he prepared for the next mission, their moments together marked by quiet conversations and stolen glances. Yet beneath the surface, tension simmered. Isabella struggled with her fears. Was she ready to face the dangers that came with James's secret life? And James wrestled with guilt, knowing that every mission risked not only his life but theirs as well. One evening, Isabella found a letter slipped under their hotel room door. It was unsigned but carried a chilling warning: some secrets are better left buried. Stop digging, or you will lose everything. The message shattered Isabella's fragile sense of safety. She realized their enemies were closer than she thought, and her search for truth had put them all in danger. As the deadline for James's departure neared, the couple faced their hardest choice yet. Could love survive in a world built on lies? And was Isabella ready to trust a man whose very life was shrouded in mystery? The night before James left, they sat together in silence, holding hands tightly. Neither spoke, but the unspoken words carried the weight of their future. Isabella closed her eyes, preparing herself for the uncertainty ahead. No matter what happened, she knew one thing for sure: her life would never be the same again. Isabel stepped out into the cool morning air, the city of Bath still wrapped in the quiet hush of dawn. Every breath felt like a cleansing wave, washing away the weight of years spent in shadows. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, she felt a flicker of hope. She found refuge in the small cottage she rented on the outskirts of town, surrounded by blossoming gardens and the gentle murmur of the river. The peace of this place nurtured her soul, offering space to heal and dream again. Days turned into weeks, and Isabel began to rediscover herself. She returned to her love of painting, filling blank canvases with color and emotion she had long suppressed. Each brushstroke was an act of defiance and rebirth. Her friends rallied around her, offering laughter, comfort, and unwavering support. The isolation she once felt was replaced by connection and warmth. Through their eyes, Isabel saw her own worth reflected back. She also took steps to secure her independence, consulting with lawyers to protect her future. The legal battles ahead would be tough, but Isabel was no longer afraid. She had found strength in vulnerability and clarity in truth. One afternoon, as golden light filtered through the window, Isabel opened a new album. This one held pictures not of secrets, but of new memories, friends gathered for tea, canvases bright with color, and moments of quiet joy. Her phone buzzed with a message from an old friend inviting her to an art exhibition in London. Isabel smiled, feeling the stirrings of a life rebuilt on her own terms. The journey had been painful, but Isabel's story was no longer defined by betrayal. It was a testament to resilience, courage, and the power to begin anew.